Stand. Arm.
Oh. Right. Pick. Prepare to post colors. Post. 3, 2. Ready. Out. Order. Out. Left. Face. Forward. March.
Order. On. Thank you. You can be seated, please.
Good morning. I'm going to do 2 prayers this morning, one for myself, and then one for all to follow, the Lord's Prayer. If I can have you stand for me, please. If you can hold the hand of the person next to you and bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask that you give us the strength to go on with the day that we are dealing with today. I ask that you watch over the family of our fallen brother and that you give them the strength to keep going. Father, we lost this young man way too early, way too soon, but now we know he is there with you and he's now watching over us. Father, this is the hardest thing that we have done today. But I do thank you for giving us the strength to come together, to show each other love, to show each other patience, and to keep going with the rest of our future. In your Son, Jesus' name I pray, Lord. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us for trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. But lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the Wilson and Janz family, I would like to thank you for all being here today to show your love and support for Dalton. All you being here shows how much of an impact you had on your life and the family's life. Dalton Bubba Robert Janz. Dalton Robert Janz of Mancos, Colorado, was born December 17, 1999, in Durango, Colorado, to Melissa Janz and Don Janz. Dalton passed away November 24th, 2022, at his home in Mancos, Colorado, at the age of 22. Dalton Robert Janz is survived by his parents, Melissa Janz of Cortez, Don and Lori Jean Janz of Mancos, sisters Courtney and daughter Reagan of Mancos, Shelby and Brian Scott of Lake Village, Arkansas, brothers Cade and Branson Mitchell, grandparent Pat Janz of Mancos, Nick and Denise Wilson of Fayetteville, Arkansas, aunts Tracy and Milt Bramley of Rockport, Missouri, Katie and Eric Seibert of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Uncle Zach Wilson of Fayetteville, Arkansas, his second dad and mom, Blake and Melody Mitchell, and the love of his life, fiancée Brianne Brunson. Of Mancos, Colorado. Dalton is survived by many other aunts, uncles, cousins, friends who he loved dearly. He is preceded in death by his grandfather, Bob Janz. Dalton loved his dog, his Ford truck, dirt bikes, working on the ranch, hunting, time spent with family and friends that consisted of a lot of dancing, singing, and laughs. Some of his greatest joys were being a member of the Dolores Volunteer Fire Department and the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office. Dalton graduated high school in 2018. He was hired by the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office as a detention officer in 2019. He was later promoted to court security, and I believe this will be in 2021. Dalton joined the Dolores Fire Department in October of 2020. This last summer, Dalton and his buddies were hanging out at the Walmart parking lot, doing whatever they do when they're hanging out, when a white Chevy lifted pickup pulls up and Dalton says, "Who does this guy think he is?" When out comes this long-legged, blonde-haired, blue-eyed cutie named Brianne Brunson, and Dalton was immediately smitten by her. Fell head over heels in love with Brianne. Dalton said, "She is out of my league. I told him you outkicked your coverage." Even so, they fell in love, and Brianne became his fiancée. Dalton loves to go hunting. This year, Bree went hunting with Dalton. Sitting in the truck, they're glassing looking for deer. Bree can't see through the binoculars. She decides to clean the lens. She cleans the lens, and then she can only see through one side. She thinks she has broken the binoculars. She finally says, "Babe, I think I broke the binoculars." Dalton looks over at her, gets that silly grin on his face, starts laughing and says, "Take off the lens cap." Also that year, again, same hunting deer. They're getting ready to go out and go for a walk, see if they can find some deer. He looks over at Bree, and she's just putting lotion on her hands, and he looks at her and she realizes she's putting scented lotion on. Dalton looks at her and starts laughing again and says, "Well, we're not going to see any deer within 200 yards of us." They ended up not killing a deer, but they had a lot of fun. Dalton was an active member of the Dolores Volunteer Fire Department. He enjoyed serving the community, helping those when they needed help the most, no matter time or day. One day, they get a call upriver for an accident. They arrive and have a patient who needs CPR. The medic looked at Dalton. His eyes were wide. The look on his face was like, "What is going on?" The medic told Dalton, "I need your help now." He dove right in and did what he was asked, just like always, there to serve those who were in need. Don and Dalton, most treasured memories were hunting. Together, they harvest many deer and elk together. Each harvest has a unique story. Talk to us at dinner, we can tell you a lot. From Dalton telling us that the skinwalkers were coming out at dark, telling Courtney something was after him, to even running into a rattlesnake. One day, Don and Dalton were hunting elk. Don was cow calling and had 2 bulls coming in. They were getting closer and closer. Don could see through the binoculars nothing but hair. They were so close. He's trying to get Dalton to shoot. Finally, Dalton shoots and misses. Don shoots and gets the bull and then asks Dalton, "What happened? How'd you miss?" He goes, "All I know is I could see hair through the scope, so I just shot." That was just one of many hunting stories. Dalton was always joking around, as we all know. And LJ, Lori Jean, was not safe from his jokes. She'd be making dinner or baking a cake, and LJ had to be on her toes because Dalton would help her by putting something in the recipe or carving the ranch initials on a cake. If you knew Dalton well, you knew he liked everything to be normal, as always the same. Don't rearrange the house. Don't buy a new couch because there's nothing wrong with the way it is. Except when it came to his Ford truck. Every time I'd see Dalton and he wasn't in his truck, I would ask him, "Dalton, where's your truck?" "I'm getting it worked on." Well, I said, "What's the matter with it?" "I'm just adding some stuff and doing some things to it." So that one thing that he was always doing was messing with his truck, whether it was new bumper, new wheels, new tires, the list goes on. The standard answer is in the shop. Dalton Robert Janz. Goodbye isn't forever. Goodbye isn't the end. Goodbye just means we will miss you every day until we meet again. Rest in peace, brother.
One.
Wow is the only word that can come to my mind when I look upon the crowd this morning. The support for Dalton and his family and friends has been amazing, and for that, I personally thank you. You see, I was asked to speak here today, and as much honored, and then true fear set in. I was asked to describe Dalton through my eyes and speak of moments we shared together. My first thought when his father Don said that was, "Sir, are you sure you want to hear that?" Don said, "My son admired you so." Yes. He continued to say, "If there was a story involving you and my son, I'd probably heard that." You see, the first time I met Dalton was on a traffic stop. His license was fresh off the press and he was hauling ass. Now, if you know me, I run a lot of traffic, but despise writing the tickets. I believe in second chances when it comes to most traffic-related issues. Well, little did I know that stop would be the beginning of a friendship, a mentorship, and just some good old-fashioned ass chewings. We spoke of his career goals a lot. He always wanted to be a cop, and I told him to be a cop, you have to have a clean license. We do not respond to calls in taxis. Seriously, I myself did not understand the impact I would have on this particular young man. I passed that gold-colored F-250 all the time, and most of the time I could see a new violation. I could also see Dalton waving through the windshield spastically. Every time I made it to the window, I saw the same smile lean out and say, "What's up, Sarge?" I'd explain the reason for my stop, and we'd share a laugh, and then off he'd go. One thing about Dalton, he was always so respectful, though, every time. Excuse me. One day I was sitting in Mancus, minding my own business, and I saw the notorious gold 6-4 come to the stoplight. And that's when I heard how good that truck would run. Oh, the coal was rolling, and I can just imagine the smile ear to ear as I was once his age, and I knew the same feeling. Except not with a Ford, but a real truck, a Cummins. If you knew our conversations, there was a lot of smack talk, but he knew I was right. Seriously, it sounds like all I did was catch him violating traffic laws, and if you believe that, well, that's because it was true. But that was really just the beginning of that relationship we shared. You see, I watched him grow, and like a big brother, I watched to make sure he was safe in doing it. I watched his pride wash across his smile. When he hired on to the sheriff's office. His one goal, to be a cop. I watched as he joined the Dolores Volunteer Fire Department, and he loved that. He loved them. We shared so many stories. He achieved his goals one after another, and I watched as he proudly displayed his fire plates and lights upon his truck. He was so proud to serve the community he grew up in. You want to know who Dalton was through my eyes? He was a joker. He had one of the best laughs. He was a little bit of hellraiser, but most good kids are. He was lastly a hero amongst the community. He will be laid to rest today, and I know this hurts bad, but I believe wholeheartedly God needed him home. God needed his help with something, and what do heroes do when we get called? We go. Without a moment's notice, we go. I can assure you that every former and current police officer and firefighter will mourn this loss of Dalton. Until we meet again, and for eternity afterwards, may you rest in peace, my friend.
first met Dalton Janz when he was with the Dolores Fire Department. And if you all could understand that law enforcement and firemen, we always have a running feud, okay? But I loved watching him, and he always would come up to me every time that we met, and he just wanted to get involved in law enforcement so badly. I could see it in his eyes and the way that he would talk to me. So I told him when he got done playing fireman, he could definitely come in and put in an application. Sorry, guys. Okay. And he did. And it's an extensive search of the individual because we hire by character first. But it was easy to see that going through his testing process, what came out were the qualities that he was raised with. And that was, he had such a high moral and ethical foundation that only comes from within and being shown and led in the early years of our lives. What stands out is that he was trustworthy. That came out everywhere in his background. Dalton was trustworthy, he was dependable, and he was responsible at such a young age. It was really a pleasant thing to see, and I was so proud to go through reading about him and then having a visit with him. He was always willing to help others, even if it was inconvenient at a time for him in his life, with what he had going on. And this young man was busy with everything. Ever since he was a young man, clear through the time that he was hired on with the sheriff's office, because he was just busy with everything, and he had such a good life experience. He was personable, he made friends very easily, and it wasn't hard to see that. He handles his stress very well, and that because of how he was raised and what he has learned in his young life. He began his career with the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office when he was hired as a non-certified deputy as a detention officer. He then was later selected in 2021 to transfer to the court security that we have in our combined court building. The reason why he was selected is because of all of those quality traits that I just spoke of, the way that he would present himself. But I also told him that you're going to be in the public eye more than ever, okay? Not locked behind the doors in the jail. And I'll tell you, he took that to heart. He kept himself well-dressed, polished, and I would pull spot inspections every now and then, as they all know. And I had so much fun with that. I did share with the family as he grew with this, and I'll tell you, he just became such a leading member in our family. Our sheriff's office is a second family. We care about each other, we take care of each other. And when I would see when they would do exterior patrols around the court, he and Deputy Johnson, who gave your opening prayer, were so close that when they're walking down the sidewalk and I would be coming around, each would put their hand over the other's head and pointing fingers, okay? Knowing that they did something and he's trying to tell them. That was his sense of humor. He was always that way. So personable, so professional, and I'm so very proud of him and how he's grown, because I watched him grow up even more. Deputy Dalton Janz is in possession of our St. Michael's patron saint of law enforcement coin. And on the back of this coin is the officer's prayer. It states, "Lord, I ask for courage. Courage to face and conquer my own fears. Courage to take me where others will not go. I ask for strength. Strength of body to protect others, and strength of spirit to lead others. I ask for dedication. Dedication to my job to do it well. Dedication to my community to keep it safe. And please, Lord, through it all, be at my side." I will miss this young officer. We all will. But I know that he has left a lasting impression on all of us and this community as well. And I was so honored and proud of him being part of your sheriff's office.
Somewhere beyond the grave, there is a land where Jesus went to prepare by his own hand, and for the saved by grace, there is a resting place. In a few more days, it will be mine. Some call it heaven, I call it home. Some call it dreaming. Let me dream on. Call it paradise, somewhere beyond the sky. Some call it heaven, I call it home. Someone said you can't go back home again. All things will never be as good as they've been. I've got good news for you. When heaven comes into view, one glimpse and you will know the best is yet to come. Call it heaven, I call it home. Some call it dreaming. Let me dream on. Some call it paradise, somewhere beyond the sky. Some call it heaven, I call it home. Some call it paradise, somewhere beyond the sky. Some call it heaven, I call it home.
To be here today to speak to all of you in memory of Dalton. Where there is deep grief, there was great love. Today we gather in deep grief for the loss of Dalton Janz as a demonstration of our great love for him. I was fortunate to have Dalton serve as a security deputy in my courtroom over the past year. Dalton had a special gift of being able to read a room full of people and quickly determine how to respond. When people come to court, their lives are very unsettled and sometimes tensions run high. Dalton's calm, assured, and comforting presence in the right place at the right time always worked to diffuse the tension. I spoke with his father, Don, about this. We theorized that his innate ability may have come from working cattle that he had to pay special attention to because, well, they were not always exactly gentle. I know a thing or two about wild cattle. And I agree that a sixth sense for reading a herd comes in handy when dealing with them. For Dalton, that skill transferred well to his work of protecting people. Dalton's astuteness, his kindness, and his integrity made him an exemplary public servant. The goal of humanity should be to leave a place better than we find it. In his far too short 22 years on this earth, Dalton accomplished that goal well. Our world is better simply because he was a part of it. I have no doubt that Dalton views us from heaven today with his characteristic defining grin. He has gone home. We are all blessed for having had him in our lives, even though for far too brief a time.
As I look at this crowd, I am struck by the love of family and friends, as well as the representation of the services that Dalton was part of. The other part of this that I'm struck by is how we as humans view death and how we celebrate our loved ones. Most of us have been to at least one or many funerals. And have you ever noticed that when it's an elderly person, even those that are cherished, the crowd is much smaller. But when it's someone in just the beginning of their life, we come out to mourn their passing. Dalton was obviously loved and respected by those who knew him. Just a little background on me. Some of you know me, some of you do not. But I'm a retired cop and have been in this community for the better part of 30 plus years. Dalton's dad and I are both transplants from the People's Republic of Durango, where we grew up and we went to school together. Don and I have that kind of friendship where you can go a long period of time, even years. When you see each other again, you feel like you met him at the cafe just last week when we shared a cup of coffee. Everyone has friendships like this, and if you do not, then go find one. I've also known Dalton's mother, Melissa, for many years, and ironically, I've spoken to her much more than Dawn over the past 20 years. A woman of good heart, strong character, and she has grit. Dawn and Melissa both are strong and have an inner desire to live life to the fullest and not let people or other obstacles get in their way. This, I believe, was one of Dalton's driving personality traits. Courtney, I have known her since she was young, both socially and professionally, and watched her grow up to be the woman she is today and the great mom she has become. I didn't get to know Dalton's sister Shelby as she had moved away, but I'm sure knowing the rest of the family, she's just as special a child as Dalton and Courtney. Unlike many of you in this crowd, I did not know Dalton intimately. My kids didn't grow up with him, and other than a few times when he was younger and I saw his parents, I was not around him. I have been told by members of the family that I had some sort of influence on Dalton. That blows my mind, as I have never considered myself influential nor special. I can remember Dalton a few years ago talking to me about his desire to be in law enforcement. I can't remember if I did or did not, but I sure hope I tried to talk him out of it. But as you can see, I was unsuccessful. Dalton decided to pursue a career from a young age in law enforcement and took a job at the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office as a jailer, as he was not old enough to go to the academy or work the road. Much to my chagrin, he also wanted to be a fireman, which, as we all know, they are second responders, but we love you guys anyways. I wish I could remember the details of the conversations that I had with Dalton about being a cop. He would not be the first person who would ask me about this line of work, and after you talk about it a few hundred times, it becomes a blur. I would like to think I told him about how the job is not about you. It is about service to the community and to people. Being a cop can be a lot of fun. You get to be bossy, tell people where to go, what to do, when to do it. They give you keys to a car and give you permission from time to time to turn on lights, blaring siren. You rush to places for people in distress, and occasionally you get to use that same car with lights and sirens to chase down some bad guy that you hopefully catch, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that there's both excitement and satisfaction when you get to slap the handcuffs on somebody who's done something wrong, especially if they've committed that wrong against another person. Dalton had worked within the jail and then as a court deputy. He got to deal with those same bad guys, but he got to see them in a different place, in a different state of mind than you do with the stress on the streets. He may have even been witness to them being humbled as a court found them guilty and brought sentence down upon them. But the thing I remember most fondly about law enforcement is the camaraderie. Camaraderie can be found in many places, but it's most prevalent for those of us who have spent time in the military or in law enforcement or the fire service. It's something hard to describe to people that have not done this or experienced it, unless you've been there. Dalton chose both law enforcement and the fire service. He got to experience camaraderie at both, and in many ways, they are the same, but they also could be different. Maybe this is why he chose both services to our community. I did occasionally get to talk to Dalton throughout these last few years, and I followed him on his social media. He reminded me a lot of myself when I was young, interested in mechanics, having a cool truck, chasing girls, and just loving life. I always liked to rib him about his love of that damn Ford truck. And I tried to guide him away from this, but he loved that thing. And what is up with Dalton doing both law enforcement and fire service? I used to give him such a hard time about this. If you didn't know, there is a lifelong friendly battle between law enforcement and the fire department. And everyone knows that cops are better than firemen, so don't understand the feelings in this. Was he just a glutton for punishment? No. He was just dedicated and wanted to serve. At one job, people basically like him, and at the other one, they hate him. Just yesterday, as we were talking about Dalton in my own home, my daughter Caitlin said she knew Dalton. I did not understand this as my daughter is 31. In 2021, at a county fair dance right here in this building, I think, my youngest daughter, Morgan, she was with my youngest daughter, Morgan, who is about Dalton's age. Dalton asked Caitlin to dance, but being shy and recognizing his age, she declined. He kept after her, and she pointed out to him she was a new mom, not in his age bracket. But he didn't care. He drug her out there to have some fun anyway. That was the kind of person Dalton was. He was bold, and he knew what he wanted, loved life, and wanted to have fun. In closing, as I've already stated, I'm not sure what I said or what kind of impression I made on Dalton that made him think good thoughts about me, but I'm highly honored to know I had a small part in his short life. I have met many young people, both professionally and personally. Very few, I can say, at his age had their life together. Dalton was one of the special ones. He was much more mature, dedicated, and prepared for whatever the world threw at him than most people his age, and many who are much older. This is what I want to remember, but it's also what makes me sad, because he was one of the good ones. Dalton, your family and your friends will mourn. They will cry. And in time, I pray they will find peace and comfort. But for me, speaking as law enforcement, I say, rest in peace, warrior. We have the watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, is that loud enough? Ladies and gentlemen, let me first start by saying thank you for being here to honor Montezuma County Sheriff's Office Deputy Dalton Janz. My name is Victor Dolores, and I have the great privilege of wearing the same uniform and bearing the same star as Dalton does. I met Dalton about 5 years ago when I responded for a coastal service just outside the town of Memphis. When I arrived, I noticed two things. Both I still remember very clearly till this day. First, a nice, intelligent, funny young man that I would later be able to call friend and law enforcement brother. And second, a really big Ford pickup truck. I must have spent a couple of hours with him that day. He had so many questions and showed such interest and curiosity about being a law enforcement officer. And even more so when I told him that my specialty was getting drugs from traffic stops. I could clearly see his eyes opening wide, smiling and laughing as I told him various stories from those days when I was on patrol. It was very clear to me that day that Dalton was very intelligent, well-spoken, motivated, hardworking, and funny. The perfect combination for a good cop. He had impressed me so much that day that I invited him to come over to the sheriff's office when he had some time and sign up for a couple of ride-alongs with me. Several weeks passed, and one day a patrol sergeant approached me and asked me, "Hey, do you know a young man by the name of Dalton? He wants to ride along with you." I immediately remembered that very nice young man with a large pickup truck. We started our first ride along that day when he got into my patrol vehicle, one of those new Ford Interceptors, the black SUVs that we had just gotten a couple of years prior. As I showed him the emergency button on the radio, just in case, the equipment that we carried, the firearms that were accessible to me, and everything inside the Interceptor, I could just tell he was fascinated. That first night, we made several traffic stops. And in one, it ended up being a felony drug arrest. It was then when he first told me, "This is what I want to do." Dalton served the people of this community with honor, dedication, and distinction. He leaves an excellent reputation for his family, himself, and the office that he represented. And for that, he will always be remembered. Dalton also leaves us with hope. Hope for new generations. Hope for others who will follow on his footsteps, to choose a life of service. Hope others will be part of something greater. Dalton chose to pin a star on his chest and stand for what is right. Dalton chose to hold the line and defend those who could not defend themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, that is something very rare in this world. That is an incredible legacy to leave behind. That is an encouraging example for others, especially for those younger generations that will follow. So thank you, Dalton. Rest easy, brother. We have to watch from here. I will now read the final prayers from Psalm 23 and Numbers 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yeah, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. You prepare my table before me in the presence of my enemies and anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make your face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
The family has asked that I inform you about the procession that will lead from the fairgrounds here, going east on Highway 160 to the town of Mancos, turning at the east Y or the west Y of Mancos and going east on Grand Avenue to Maine. When we get to Maine and Grand, the immediate family, a few law enforcement officials, Dolores Fire Department officials will turn south to the Mancos Cemetery, and this is to be a private type of cemetery service. And everyone else will, that is in the procession, will be diverted to turn north onto Main Avenue. At this time, I will call Deputy Dalton Janz, Deputy Dalton Robert Janz.
Attention all units, clear the air for priority traffic. MC 493. MC 493, Deputy Janz. MC 493, Deputy Janz. No response from MC 493, Deputy Dalton Janz. This is the final call for MC 493, Deputy Dalton Janz. End of watch, Thursday, November 24th, 2022. Thank you for your service, Deputy Janz. Although you are no longer with us, you will never be forgotten. Rest in peace, our friend, and may God bless your soul. 11/17, December 2nd, 2022.
All uniformed personnel, attention! Present arms! Order, arms. All uniformed personnel at ease.
Throughout most of the history, the life of a firefighter has closely been associated with the ringing of a bell. As he began his tour of duty, it was the bell that started the shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which called him to duty and to place his life in jeopardy for the good of a fellow man. And when the call had ended and the alarm was complete, it was that bell that rang 5 times to signal the end. And now our brother, Dalton Janz, has completed his task, his duties well done, and we will ring the bell 5 times, followed by a pause, 5 more times followed by a pause, and 5 final times in memory of and in tribute to his life and service.
All uniformed personnel, attention! Present arms! Order, arms. At this time, all law enforcement and fire personnel, please line up for the columns and the sea of blue. We'll start with the Dolores Firefighter that will be placing Deputy Janz on the fire engine, followed by NCSO, and then everybody else.